Trust me, it would be a pretty demoralising walk back to the house to tell my partner that I didn't even finish. Am I the lycra-wearing weekend cyclist but doesn't actually go anywhere that fast? Or am I the cyclist that I think I am, who would do average-ish in an online race against actual riders who are actually good? So here's the background. 22 miles racing on Zwift with no previous racing experience. How hard can it be? Being my usual adventurous self, I thought I'd dive in at the deep end like an Olympic diver and try and score a perfect 10. Well, in reality, it was more like a 4, and that's rounding up from a 3.6. My last FTP test was back in April, and I got a score of 288. To note, I currently weigh 80 kg. Since April, priorities have shifted a little, and a house purchase has got me spending less time in the saddle and more time with a paintbrush. But as I don't want to turn into a roast potato over Christmas, I set up the Wahoo Kicker Core in the newly painted summer house and got my ass into gear. So let's answer that question. How well can an average cyclist do in a 22-mile race with no racing experience? Now, on the start line, there were 210 people lined up, and suddenly I felt the pressure of finishing at least in the top half. The circuit is 5 laps of the same loop, which included a big hill, which for Mr. Potato here didn't help me massively. But what goes up must come down, and gravity enjoys pulling all those extra kilos back down to sea level. As we are about to start, my logic tells me, take it relatively easy. After all, it's a 22-mile course. That's going to be around an hour of racing. I don't want to burn all my matches too early and bonk, aka have to stop. Trust me, it would be a pretty demoralising walk back to the house to tell my partner that I didn't even finish. Off we went, and my logic didn't appear to be that logical. I should have put down some more power at the start to ensure that I was with the faster lead out group. Because once they are in the distance, they pretty much stay in the distance, unless you are more than an average cyclist. And with drafting in play, they will likely pull further and further away. Which is exactly what happened. I was secretly crying inside. It was an emotional moment. Now, at this point, my expectations took a little bit of a hit. I was wondering if finishing the top half was going to be likely. In the worst case scenario, I set a benchmark and it gives me something to improve upon. My confidence takes a hit and I sulk in the bar for a few hours. This is my introduction to the Zwift racing world, so I have an excuse and all of you fine people can let me off the hook, right? Best case scenario, a big dose of adrenaline tells my brain that my legs aren't going to hurt at all and catch the group that steamed off into the distance at the start. There is also the potential of working together with the other riders who may try and catch that group. If that happens, I walk back to the house and chill in the bath with a smile on my face, maybe even a couple of glugs of Radox to treat myself. Either way, I end up in the bath. So who's the real winner? For the first 5 minutes, it was pretty sporadic. In hindsight, I should have tried to bridge the gap to the groups ahead. A bigger effort at the start would have meant a reduced amount of effort at the end of the race. Groups started to form and gaps between those groups started to increase. You can see how the riders are spread out in the mini-map in the top right. The course was undulating, going up and down until I hit the main hill, which was roughly 3/4 into the loop. This is where I noticed the difference in weight. You can see on the right how much power people are putting down. I was putting down the same amount of power as them, if not more, but I was going backwards. This can only mean one thing. There are some featherweights among us. So, mental note to myself, you need to work hard going up hills and take the benefit of the drafts going downhill. As we cross the line for the first lap, I'm sitting in 117th place. I'm currently category C, but I believe that everyone here is mixed, so maybe I'm not doing as bad as I first thought. The next few laps followed a similar format. I stayed with this group, pushed hard on the climbs and got a little rest on the descents. The ebb and flow was consistent, and with that consistency brought routine, structure, and allowed me to plan for future laps. Maybe even a little sprint breakaway, if I wanted to attack. There are some mistakes that I made, and at this point, there was nothing that I could do about them. Dwelling on the past wasn't going to spur me on for the remainder of the race. My mouse was also out of reach, so I couldn't activate any power-ups. Who needs power-ups though? Me. That's who needs power-ups. Me. I can see the feather in the top left waiting to be used. It was basically a reminder that I could be lighter. Thanks very much, Zwift. As I cross the line for the third lap, I'm now sitting in 104th place. As it turns out, this group of riders were pushing quite hard. So in the fourth loop, we managed to pick off a few riders who were further ahead. It's a little hard to coordinate, but I can imagine if you rode with others, you could actually put quite a good effort together. When we reached the hill on the fourth lap, a few riders really put the power down. I decided to join to try and drop a few people who were behind us. If we could open up a gap, it would make it hard for them to catch up on the final loop. You can see in the right hand side the time between each rider, so that gives you an indication of who you can catch or get caught by. But bear in mind, as you go up and down hills, this time will increase and decrease pretty drastically. My heart rate has been above 160 beats for pretty much the whole race. I know I can hold 160 beats for an hour or so, so it's not looking too bad. In the final loop, I thought to myself, it's now or never really. If I time it right and slowly increase my power, then I could catch a couple of other riders. Me and T Pope, shout out Popey, pushed on together and we built a gap of around 30 seconds to the group behind. And we were gaining on a couple of riders ahead. Up the hill, my virtual friend Mr. Pope put some power down. I tried to stay with him, but I couldn't keep up. We did, however, overtake some randoms and I managed to pass B Wall with 1,000 feet to go, which was super satisfying. So I finished 96th of what was now 211 riders. We seem to have gained a rider in the virtual world. He must have been hiding in a hard drive somewhere. Future Jordan here, who is currently editing the video. Since this recording, I have logged into Zwift Power and noticed that I came 6th out of 45 people in the category C category. So overall, a really good result. So I managed to average 262 watts for 56 minutes. Considering my FTP back in April, before I turned into Bob the Builder, was 288, this wasn't a bad result. In fact, I'm pretty pleased with the amount of power I managed to put down. My max power was 563 watts. That was likely uphill or at the start. My average speed was around 23 miles per hour, which isn't bad holding that sort of speed for 56 minutes. My average heart rate was 169 beats per minute. A little high, this needs to come down. So where does that leave me? It leaves me with a good benchmark to move forward and start building on. I know the sacrifice that is required to achieve crazy results. And right now, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking to progress over time, and to ensure that progression happens, I need to keep pushing in a gradual and consistent way. This time, I'm setting a realistic goal to consistently improve. If you are not sure about taking on a race, if you don't think you are fit enough, if you think you need more gear or you're not motivated, just simply go for it. I promise you will be in a better position than you were before the race. Action breeds motivation, not the other way around. You know what also keeps me motivated? You guys supporting the channel. So if you found value or enjoyed this video, tap the like button and subscribe for more content. Click or tap on the screen to watch me do more stupid things in another video, and I will see you in the next one.